Hey guys, what is going on? This is Pantsar Dragon, and today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic that, I kind of saw on Reddit, and, there's a thread that basically said streamers were belittling Diamond 1s and Diamond 2s and, saying they were shit, and usually these streamers are masters or challenger like me. I mean, I've done the same thing, so I thought this would be an interesting video on why we think Diamond players are bad. And it's not like I hate them. I mean, they're kind of forced to play with us due to the ranked system. And we get frustrated because they play on like a different level. Like the average person won't really notice a difference between their skill level, but only the diamonds versus the challenger players will see a difference. And sometimes they do mistakes that we just kind of get really frustrated at. And I'll be honest here, if you guys have been watching my ranked series, I've had my fair share of shit-talking diamonds, and I saw some people complaining about it in the comments below, but I took it as a minority. Apparently, it's a majority? Question mark. I'm not sure if it was just a Reddit thing or maybe my comments were a majority. But basically, it's time to make a video on why we can get frustrated with Diamond 1 players and below. But since it's gonna be kind of a negative video, let's make it a little less negative, and I'll say some good things about Diamond 1s and Diamond players. Alright, so the very first thing that you can compare Diamond 1s and challenger players is that they can have similar mechanics, even better mechanics than some challenger players. Oh, it looks like I'm talking about myself again. And they can do the same things in the laning phase, know the matchup and play it well, know their role in a team fight, etc. So like their mechanics and micro can be compared to master and challenger players. Hell, there may be a one-trick Renekton player in Diamond 1, and there's a challenger top laner who plays a bunch of champions, and that Renekton one trick could be a better Renekton than the challenger top laner. Also known as he might know how to play the laning phase better, and overall know what to do with Renekton in certain situations or certain combos or something. I'll even admit, there are some Diamond 5 players who can play Lee Sin better than me. Well, most can because I don't play Lee Sin, but let's do a better example. There are better Diamond 1 Kha'Zixes than me. Like, they know how to play the team fights better than me, for sure. I know that from personal experience. And they also know their limits, and you know what I mean. So, Diamond 1 players, Diamond players, they do have the mechanics. And you probably also see that some Diamond players make the same plays as some Challenger Master players. Hell, you've probably seen some godlike plays coming from them, but I hate to break it to you, but this game isn't about making godlike plays, it's about macro. Knowing how to rotate, what objective to get next, knowing the limits of when to go back and when to keep going, rotating to the lane with the most minions or the tower that is most vulnerable, just little macro stuff. And that's where the Master and Challenger players come in. I mean, some Master players and Challenger players don't really have the macro knowledge, but have one trick so well that they got to their level. For instance, I didn't know shit about the game in like Season 3 and 4, but I just played OP champions, Wukong, Eve, Xin Zhao when they were super OP, and then I was with the high elo players where all the pro players were playing. I guess you could basically say I was a one trick, but also playing in a high level environment actually teaches me some things that I didn't know. And so once I played a bunch of pro level games, you just kind of picked up on the little things and it kind of stuck with me, and that's why I guess you can say I've been challenger throughout every season, just because I picked up on little things that better players were doing and then kind of understood of how the game was meant to be played, and then that kind of helped me with macro, and like it taught me what to do in certain situations and how to win the game. Now it's time to compare the macro game with Challenger players versus Diamond 1 players and what I've noticed, like the mistakes that Diamond players make. So first off, some Diamond players have an idea of how to win the game, or like basically their own style of playing. Like one person might constantly split push and hoping that since he's causing a lot of pressure, his team will get something on the other side of the map, but sometimes he might just get caught out for free and his team doesn't do anything. That's just one example. Maybe a person in Diamond would get caught out constantly and like all that person had to do was group up with his team and he'd win. Like, to be honest, these are things that you would probably not notice because most of it is involved in decision making, not mechanics. And also, like, I don't know, someone might get caught out and just delays the game even further when they could have won by like grouping up as 5. Or like one thing that might happen is they group up and try to siege an inhibitor tower without Baron or maybe a tank, and then they just get caught out by the enemy team, or just knowing when to back off a team fight when it's already lost but still go in anyways because they think that if they go in a team fight they might win it. I mean, I still do that sometimes, but alright, so basically I don't really know how to say it, but a lot of Diamond players, they have different mistakes that each of them have and continue making that don't allow them to get into Master or Challenger. But basically, I'll kind of sum it up like this. So if you've ever been a Diamond player and you play the Master or Challenger player, you can see that these better players are on a different level than you. And when I say that, it just means that they play a very different style than what you're ordinary used to in Diamond whatever. The pace of the game has changed and you can feel it, because I feel like these Challenger players will kind of guide you to victory. I mean, when I was one tricking myself with like Wukong and other OP champions, I noticed that the pace of the game was steadily changing and it was not what I was used to. I mean, let's say you're a silver player and then you go to platinum. The game actually becomes a little bit more fast paced, and usually you won't get games that go to 50 minutes. You get games that go to 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Like when you're gaining skill in any game and you're going up the ladder, you notice a change of the game pace and things get different. And the big thing I want to say that I noticed between Diamond 1 games and Challenger games is that Diamond games feel like players are doing their own thing, shitting on their opponent and just, getting kills around the map, not playing for objectives as intensely, but they do still do a good job of getting objectives and doing their macro play than the average player. And they do work as a team sometimes, but from what I noticed from Challenger players and Master players, everyone has the same vision of how to win the game, or maybe one person does and everyone just kind of follows his ideas and plays their role really good on like what they have to do in order to win the game and do this guy's vision on how to win the game. And all the players just work so much more fluently and just a little bit more coordinated. That's why you don't really see too much kills going on in the Challenger games. Well, sometimes you do, but there's also a bunch of objectives coming down on both teams and the game is definitely more fast paced. Like, okay, so this is a good example. So let's say there's a Diamond 1 game and basically what happens is 3 lanes will win and they get all 3 first towers down. Then honestly, after like 10 minutes of that happening, people will still go to their lanes and try and find kills around the map, maybe do some outplay, I don't know. But basically there's a lot of dicking around and possible throws that might happen. Or of course the best scenario is where they just dick around, kill them all and then win the game. Either way, the winning team is waiting for a kill so they can get an objective out that. But then like in what I noticed in Challenger games, where 3 lanes have won, there's like more rotations happening. You push the mid lane in and then you rotate to a side lane, which is building up a big creep wave. Or what I noticed is 80 carries who win their lane, they will swap to the top lane to get that tower, and then their team will also apply pressure to the top tower when the time is right, aka the middle lane and bottom lane are pushing, and then they basically get the top tower. And you know what, all of this is getting probably very confusing, but basically what I'm trying to say is I feel like Diamond players, they don't understand the macro game as far as Challenger players. The players who are like one tricks and get like into Challenger with no knowledge of macro, those players are just really good at playing their champion and usually win off just straight up carrying or something, through their mechanics. And I know that all of this sounds like condescending and like I'm shit talking players, but this is honestly how it feels like and how I feel like. Like, I feel like if Diamond 1 players want to get the Master or Challenger, they just have to improve their macro game. Their mechanics are already good, but if they have an idea or vision of how to win a game, they could be so much better and lead people to victory. Unless they got the Diamond 1 by doing that, then they gotta probably work on their mechanics. It might be the other way around. But yeah, you will not notice these differences unless you have played in these different levels of gameplay. And the text you see on the screen, this is where different levels of gameplay is noticed and the game pace kind of changes, as I've played with all players of each level. So I feel like Diamond 2s and Diamond 1s are very similar, but Diamond 1s have an edge over the Diamond 2s, which is just, I'd say, a little bit more better mechanics. And then when you get into Master 0 to 200 LP, that's where I feel like you're a Diamond 1 player, but you have decent knowledge of the macro game and don't fuck up as much as a D1 player. And once you're past 200 LP, you kind of have a better understanding of how to play the macro game. And once you're in Challenger 400 LP, you have a good idea of how to play the macro game, but not to the fullest, or maybe your mechanics are pretty shit. That's me. And you're lacking skill in a few departments. Now once you're 600 LP, this is where you actually have mechanics and have a good idea of how to play your role and what you're supposed to do as, say, a jungler. And also you might be really consistent. Now once you hit 700 LP Challenger, your macro game is pretty good and your mechanics are pretty top notch. You should be able to lead your team to victory, or you're a really good carry. And once you're just past 1000 LP, you know what the fuck you're doing, you have an idea of how to win the game, you're a really good carry, you're probably very consistent, and you only fuck up like 3% of the time. Oh yeah, and your macro game must be really good. And you waste no time fucking around on the map, and you always are contesting something, or like you're just leaving no room for the enemy to retaliate and just pressuring the map super hard. And yeah, you've just basically beat solo queue and know how to carry it. And I guess I'll end it there. Those different divisions and brackets indicate a skill level kind of identical to Diamond 5 to Diamond 1. So you can see like D2 to D1 is D7, Master 0 to 200 LP is D6, and Master 200 LP to 400 LP is D5, and you kind of get the idea. They're just kind of like the next level. And I don't know if this video was interesting or something. I was kind of hoping to explain why. Challenger and Master players think Diamond players are bad, but it is actually so hard to explain the difference between the skill level of a Challenger player and a Diamond player, and that sounds really egotistic, but I'm gonna be honest here, all Challenger players think it. They see the mistakes that a Diamond player makes that is just like so obvious to them, but not to an average player, like a Silver player. Basically, how a Challenger player feels when he plays with a Diamond 1 player is sort of similar to a Gold 1 player playing with a Silver 1. I can't really tell the difference between Gold 1 and Silver 1, but I'm pretty sure it's a little big. Like if you ask a Diamond player and then you say, how would you compare yourself to a Challenger player? Now if he were talking about me, he'd say I'm shit and he can outlane me, but he has better luck than me. And if you ask me, how do you compare yourself to Challenger players who are 700 LP plus, I'd say they're like top of the line players, and they're definitely better than me. By how much? Well, if they can play the early game better than me and have similar macro decisions, then quite a bit, even though I've been at 700 LP. But that was a fluke, or was it? And I've said this before in another video, I'm not sure which one, but basically, in Season 1 I played Ashe, and I think I was in Silver for a while, but then I got to Gold by, I don't remember what I did, but basically I got to Gold and I noticed a big skill difference between the players around me and my own skill, because I got carried by some support in Italy, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's really good. I don't think I belong here, but I was like, holy shit, everyone's so good. Why am I here? And I just felt so out of place, but yeah, I ended gold and got my Victorious skin. So I was happy and didn't give a shit. But yeah, hopefully this actually gives some insight on why Challenger players think Diamond players are bad. It's basically because they feel like the skill difference is really big. But what do I know? I'm boosted, so this video was pointless. And I don't really have a say, so thank you guys for watching the video. I wasted 10 minutes of your life. And if you guys did enjoy the 10 minutes of wasted life, make sure to like this video. And if you didn't, make sure to subscribe. Anyways, I am Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.